This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, let's have some fun. It's time for Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo. Stuck with me for the next 3 hours right here on VSiN, the sports betting network, as we take you through your Tuesday night right on in to your Wednesday morning. We've got a great guest lineup we're going to get to here. Plenty of live action going on. We'll keep you abreast of. How about those guests? Our buddy Nick Whalen, co-host of Prop Points right here on the network, also senior analyst over at RotoWire, going to join us in 15 short minutes. We'll break down all the NBA action, including the conclusion of his Milwaukee Bucks season. Up 7 with, 40 seconds to go in overtime, and the Pacers rattle off an 8-0 run to end it. Inexcusable the way that Milwaukee's season came to an end, Dame or not. Dana Lane going to join us in hour 2. We'll go over some Wednesday NHL plays, maybe a little NBA as well. 2 big games on the hardwood out there in the Western Conference. And then Scott Spreitzer, our friend, is going to join us in hour 3 for some NBA and MLB picks. Scott and I were in sync last Tuesday when he came on and had a lot of success last Wednesday, including fading the Rangers in a game where Jake DeGrom was on the bump against the Athletics. Well, DeGrom taking on the Athletics again here tonight. This time, going a little better for the former 2-time National League Cy Young winner. We'll dive into all the live action here momentarily, including my New Jersey Devils. I don't think that game's on in here. 30 seconds away from double overtime in Carolina. Game 5, Devils fighting for their lives. Look, they were up 3-0 as overtime has come to an end, so it'll be double OT in Raleigh. They were up 3-0. I mean, this Devils team, they've had to overcome a lot. They've had a lot of adversity on the injury front, obviously, most glaringly Jack Hughes being out for the year. But my goodness, a 3-0 lead, and now we're knotted up at 4 going into double overtime. It's like, as a Devils fan, Carolina, please just put them out of their misery already. If they can't hold a 3-0 lead, they don't even deserve to take things back to the Rock for a Game 6. Although, wouldn't that be something if they were able to get it back to the Prudential Center in Newark for a Game 6. They're going to get a Game 6 in Motown. The Detroit Pistons have won 2 out of 3 at Madison Square Garden. And that is just freaking inexcusable, if you ask me. My Knicks dropping a second. I'm okay. You got 3 out of the first 5 at home. You go 2-1. It's understandable. It's respectable. To go 1-2, and now you're going back to Detroit for a Game 6 where they just went 0-2. Are they going to lose 3 in a row? Oh, by the way, they probably outplayed you for, the better part of the 96 minutes in those 2 games in Detroit. Now you think you're going to go to Detroit and go 3-0? I don't know. Game 4 was mighty close there at the end. The Knicks were a no-show in the third quarter, had to claw their way back, did ultimately. And, we talked about it, obviously, with the controversy at the end on Josh Hart closing out on Tim Hardaway and the official coming out, which, by the way, I hate the statement after the fact. Don't come out after the fact and make the statement. What does it do? Does anyone in Detroit, and if you're out there, if you're a Pistons fan, if you're in Motown, you're watching the show, listening to the show, make sure you tweet at us at the Joe Ceraulo. I want to hear from you. Do you feel better after the head official comes out and says, oh, we missed the call? My bad. I'm sorry. We missed it. Result holds. Do you feel better after that? I think it's such stupidity. It's such crap coming out there and saying, we missed the call. Look, there are physical plays. There are physical calls. Sometimes they make a ticky-tack call. Other times they miss a call, right? Ben Stiller, the incredible actor, tweeted out a really funny picture of Karl Anthony Towns going for a board, and he's having each arm held down by a different Detroit Pistons player in Game 4. That play happened to be a no call. Where's the outrage over that? Calls get made that shouldn't have. Calls get missed that should have been made. Just because of the timing of it, I don't really care. Knicks came back in the fourth quarter. Towns and Brunson made all the shots they needed to. Game 4 went the way it did. But now Game 5, this was an inexcusable loss for the Knicks on their home court. And it was a neck and neck. This was, talk about a full 48 minutes of just competitive, hard-nosed, even basketball. What was the biggest scoring disparity in any quarter? Third quarter, right? Pistons +4. Second quarter, fourth quarter were tied. Knicks by 1 in the first quarter. That's remarkable. That 3 out of the 4 quarters were either a tie or won by a single point. And then the third quarter, Detroit outscores them by 4. This was a remarkably close game. But nonetheless, it was an inexcusable loss for the Knicks on their home court. Anunoby, by the way. Did you see everyone saying Anunoby was going to have a big game because Anne Hathaway was in attendance? Yeah, I don't blame him. I would too. Only knock on her is that she was wearing a Yankees hat and it should have been a Mets hat. Would have gone better with the blue and orange Knicks jacket. But Anunoby, he's got his thing for Anne Hathaway. He goes out there, 19 points, leads the team, 8 boards. Every Knicks starter had 15 or more points. Problem is, no one had 20. No one on the Knicks got to 20. So it was balanced, but it was consistently mediocre, we'll call it. Towns had 17 and 11. Brunson had 16, 7 dimes. Hart, 15 points, 7 boards, 6 assists. Bridges, 17 points, 6 boards. So everyone had a really balanced game. Knicks were +4 on the glass. Mitchell Robinson gave him a double-double off the bench. His best game by far, 13 and 11. McBride had 4. Payne had just 2 coming off the bench. For the Pistons, 5 guys in double figures, 3 starters, 2 off the bench. Cunningham, 24, 8, and 8, leading the way. He's been an absolute star this entire series. Hardaway had a terrible game. After his big game 4, just 2 for 10, 1 of 7 from deep, 8 points in this one. Tobias Harris, back in his home state, 17 points, 8 boards. Jalen Duren, 14 boards for an over, 6 assists for an over, 9 points. I believe that stayed under his posted total 4 points. So the Knicks drop a second straight game at Madison Square Garden. The road team has now won 4 in a row in this series. We are at over 5.5 games. That was, I think, the second play I gave out when these series props were released. I said Clippers over the Nuggets, which we'll get to momentarily here, as LA's pulled it within single digits. They were down 14 not too long ago. Well, we went Clippers plus $1.35. We went Knicks Pistons over 5.5. It was -115. Got up to -130. Came back down a tick to -125 as the money definitely came in on the over 5.5 games. Frankly, up 3-1, going back home, it should have ended right here in 5. Now, don't get me wrong, this series would have been a lot closer than your average 5-game set, but this should have ended in 5, and the Knicks might be staring down a game 7 because I certainly don't feel good about the prospect of a game 6 going back to Detroit. I mean, the Pistons have to be favored, don't they? They were near pick'ems games 3 and 4. We got the Knicks -1 in game 3. We stayed away game 4. I mean, hey, Knicks -1 would have been a push game 4. I forgot what the number was for that 4th game. Let's see what it is game 6. Detroit -2. And frankly, that's right where it should be. That is right where it should be. How about the Warriors? They were plus $1.35 money line when that opened for tomorrow's matchup with Houston. Now, plus $1.60. Good thing we waited. I got to get in on the Warriors money line here. I have to begin my hedge on that Rockets 27-1 ticket. That hedge has to start now. Let's get to the live action. We're going to talk about it coming up here shortly with our buddy Nick Whalen. But the Clippers and Nuggets in action right now in Denver. LA has cut the lead in half. It was 14, now it's 7. How about it? These early leads mean nothing in the NBA. I mean, you can turn the game on in the 4th quarter. I told the story yesterday. I'll reiterate. I was at a sports bar watching game 4. Nuggets were up. It was a runaway train, right? Clippers, you could have gotten live plus 11.5 in that 4th quarter on Saturday. They end up losing by 2. It was tied up until that buzzer beater dunk. You can argue whether it was or wasn't. Doesn't matter. It counted. But came back. You could have gotten plus 11.5. Next thing you know, it's 99 all in the final seconds. Speaking of final seconds, we've entered the final minute of the Magic season. Boston's up 30, 118-88. What a second half for the Celtics. Huh? That one was tight early, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, wow, Boston was down at the half. See, this is what happens. I must have been, either in the shower or putting loads of stuff in my hair when that game was at the half. Boston down at the half. Outdoes Orlando 36-13 in the 3rd quarter. Wow. This second half, they've outscored them 71-39. This is like the Cavs and the Heat. 139.5 of basketball. My goodness, Jason Tatum, welcome back. 35, 8 boards, 10 assists. How you doing? Wow. Craziness in Indiana. We'll get to on the other side. Purposely waited for our buddy Nick Whalen to hop on for that one, because I'm sure as a Wisconsinite, as a Bucks fan, he'll have a lot to say about how that game unfolded. My goodness, 119-118, Indiana in overtime. Gary Trent leads the team with 33 points, and all that they're going to remember is that he coughed it up twice in the final minute of OT and gave Indiana the game. How about that? 33 points, and that's all anyone's going to talk about for Gary Trent's performance, is coughing it up. Hey, folks, summer's approaching, and this summer, it's time to go all in at Circa Las Vegas with the ultimate getaway package. Just $400 all in. What does all in mean? It means you'll get a 2-night stay at Circa, a $100 dining credit, a $100 beverage credit, and your very own daybed at Stadium Swim. How do you like that? Stadium Swim, where the party never stops. All that for just $400, resort fees and taxes included. This limited time offer is valid for stays between May 26th and September 4th, so don't miss out. Lock in your all-in summer package now at circalasvegas.com. Got a commercial break in Denver. Game 5. Nuggets up 59-50. Inside 3 to go in the first half. Nuggets laying 4.5. Minus $2 on the money line. Clippers plus $1.55. We'll touch base with Nick Whalen on the other side. It's Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo. Cashing Out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you through your Tuesday night here on the program. Lots of NBA playoff action going on. 3 games in the books, 1 approaching the half. The Clippers and the Nuggets, 59-51. Denver, as they approach halftime. We're going to try to get to Nick Whalen over on the Progressive guest line here shortly. I did lose my battery pack here, folks, in the back. This did die on me, so not going to be able to hear Nick without a new one of these. But while we wait to get a new battery pack on so I can hear our incredible guest, the Nuggets up 61-51 here, make it 61-53 with 2:15 to go in quarter number 2. Clippers kind of hanging within that 7-8 point mark here, as they were down as many as 14 in the second quarter. So Clippers working on a bit of a comeback, and we'll probably be able to update you with a live number next at the half, as we're approaching halftime inside of 2 minutes here. Kawhi Leonard, been a quiet night. Was expecting after a loss that Kawhi would really get it together like he did after that Game 1 loss with his monster performance in Game 2. That is, I think the battery pack's working. Let's welcome in our guest here. Let's head over to the Progressive guest line and get Nick Whalen into the show. Had to turn it off, turn it back on again. So let's get Nick in on the program. Nick, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Joe. What's going on?
Awesome. I love it. Sorry for the couple-minute delay, man. It's great to have you on here. And what do you make of this Nuggets-Clippers Game 5 here? Denver up a dozen here, 67-55. Which side were you on coming in? And do we have an opportunity like we did in Game 4 to maybe come back on the Clippers as they're down double digits?
Well, I'll tell you, on prop points earlier today, I revealed that I was on the LA Clippers, took them on the money line. So this is not the result that we were hoping for. Denver now up 12 as we near halftime. Nuggets are shooting it at close to 55%. They're shooting 50% from beyond the arc. And really the difference maker has been Russell Westbrook, who of course was not out there in Game 4. And, a few hours ago, we didn't even know if Russ was going to play. He's 6 of 11 from the field. He's hit a couple of threes, 16 first half points for Russell Westbrook, outscoring the entire Clippers bench by himself. But as we know, Joe, can we really depend on Russell Westbrook keeping this up for a full game? I'm not sure that we can. So might be an opportunity if you're looking to buy back in on the LA Clippers. Live line right now sitting at 6.5 at DraftKings.
Yeah, it feels like that's the way this entire series has gone. I mean, every game, with the exception of, Game 2, where the Clippers destroyed Denver? Was that Game 2 or Game 3?
I want to say it was game 2, but I could be wrong. No, game 3.
Game 3, 117-83, right. Game 2 was the one where Kawhi went scorched earth. But they won it by 3 at Denver. Yeah, with the exception of Game 3, I mean, every game has featured a double-digit lead in one direction or the other, and things have gotten tight late. So Nuggets, up 10 here. Zubats heads to the line, 7 seconds to go until the break. We'll probably revisit the live line once halftime does hit, but I would say if you're getting the Clippers plus 6.5, that's probably a good play because we've had, 3 out of the 4 games fall on 2 or 3 thus far. So this has been a great series. Nick, let's get to your team. Let's get to the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, that overtime up 7 with 40 seconds to go. I was just saying it before you came on. Gary Trent led the team. I believe he led the entire game in scoring with 33. And all he's going to get remembered for in this one is coughing it up twice in the final 40 seconds. I mean, not to make you relive your trauma, but walk us through that final minute.
Oh, man. I think Bucks fans, the way this season has gone, the way these last really 3 years have gone in the playoffs are just kind of conditioned to accept situations like this. I mean, there were, 3 times, I would say, in the end of the fourth quarter and overtime where I would have been comfortable saying, yes, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win this game. They were up 7 with 35 seconds left in that overtime period, and just a myriad of mistakes, poor coaching. Like you said, tough for Gary Trent to have this game. Have the game 3 that he had, kind of bailing the Bucks out, and like you said, he'll be remembered for that mistake, literally just dropping the ball out of bounds. But probably not a good thing, Joe, when Gary Trent is your leading scorer, which I think says more about the Bucks roster construction than anything else. I mean, we saw the lineup change that Bucks fans have been asking for throughout this entire series finally happened tonight. And what happens? Milwaukee gets out to a 13-0 start. They're dominating throughout the entire first quarter. They were up 17 at the end of the first. And, gradually they let that slip away. Pacers, I believe, were down just 6 at the half. And you always had a feeling that, Milwaukee had that opportunity through the first 12 minutes and just didn't capitalize. But the bottom line is 3 guys who were starting for this team, Joe, down the stretch, who were every night starters for the Milwaukee Bucks, were basically out of the rotation in the most important game of the year. Taurean Prince, Kyle Kuzma, and Brook Lopez essentially were unplayable in this series. And look, we can get on Doc Rivers. We could talk about Giannis's future if we want, but I think this is a failure in team building by the Milwaukee Bucks. And obviously they went all in for Damian Lillard. Tough break with the injuries that he's had, especially the torn Achilles. When you go all in for Dame, you're going to have limited flexibility. But I think this was a roster that in a lot of ways was always doomed to fail. You have a lot of specialists. You have guys who can defend. You have guys who can shoot, but they can't do both. And I think we saw it when they ran into this Indiana team. They have a lot of really good two-way players, and the Bucks simply did not.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was, they went all in on the star power with Giannis and Dame, and they forgot to build up a supporting cast, I mean, you had Pat Connaughton, a guy who showed us he was capable of dropping 40 points there late in the regular season, and I think it was last game I saw him shoot a 3 off the side of the backboard, then switching up the starting 5 like this. I mean, it just felt like an absolute disaster. Frankly, I'm shocked they were in it the way that they were. Holding a 7-point lead in the final minute of OT, but it just seemed like that was the way they were destined to have their season end, by blowing that lead. And this is why I always say, by the way, folks, turn the NBA on in the fourth quarter, because they were up 30-13 after 1, and it meant absolutely nothing. What's your outlook for my Knicks? Because I'm not happy with this team. I think that they're going to lose Game 6. Losing Game 5, even though you could say, things balance and even out because they won 2 in Detroit and probably shouldn't have won both. I think going 1-2 at Madison Square Garden for this team is inexcusable against the Pistons. What's your current outlook on this series that we've cashed in over 5.5 total games on?
Well, I was on the opposite side of that one, Joe. I took the under 5.5 right when that series price came out because I really like some of the advantages that I thought the Knicks had in this series, and it's been baffling to watch, honestly. I think the Knicks are significantly more talented than Detroit. I think what makes it even more frustrating is that even in the games that they've won in this series, Detroit has not played that well, right? I mean, they are not shooting the 3 at an efficient clip whatsoever. They were once again under 30% in tonight's game, 8 of 29 from beyond the arc. Like, that was, in my opinion, that was the path for Detroit to hang in with the New York Knicks, who are, a relatively low volume 3-point shooting team. And you're thinking, okay, Tobias Harris, he could shoot. Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, these are high volume 3-point shooters. Beasley and Hardaway went 3 of 14 from beyond the arc. And the Pistons still were able to control this game late. And I don't understand why the Knicks have decided to be so Jalen Brunson centric. Brunson's a great player. He's an all NBA caliber player. He's their best player, but You have Karl Anthony Towns. You have OG Anunoby, who's given them great minutes, especially over the second half. You paid a king's ransom to bring in McCall Bridges, and you've just kind of turned him into this stand in the corner, and every now and then we're going to ask you to step up type of player. Like there's no reason to me why this shouldn't be a more egalitarian offense. And when you decide to play that way, and your best player goes 4 of 16 from the field and turns it over 4 times, that's how you get this result. So really nothing would surprise me as far as game 6 goes. You know, the Pistons are going to be jacked up for that. It's going to be a wild crowd in Detroit. I would still be very surprised if the Knicks lose this series. But, you know, when you start to spin it ahead and you're looking at that round 2 matchup, I think you and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. As much as I love watching this Knicks team, it really feels like they are much closer to the Pistons and the Pacers and the Bucks than they are the Cavs or the Celtics.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that, Nick. And that was my gripe with them coming into this postseason. It's like, you know, 5-6 years ago, if you told me, hey, the Knicks won 50 games, they're the 3 seed, I'd be like, hell yeah, sign me up. But right now, it's like, no. That was good and well last year, making it to the second round of the playoffs. This year, the expectations, especially with the Towns trade and giving up DiVincenzo and Randall to get Cat, the expectations were essentially conference championship should be your floor. And, you know, drawing Boston in a 2-3 matchup, that was clearly never going to happen because, like you said, the Knicks are closer to the 6 seed than they are the 2. And, I mean, that's showing. You got to have – now, look, I have the ultimate respect for this Detroit team. It's why I took over 5.5 total games. You got to have one blowout win on your home court in this series. Yep. And really, all the Knicks had was one quarter. That 21-0 run in game. They could be 0-3 at home. So, you know, I got to ask you, I guess the question now becomes, how many games does it take Boston here in the final 30 seconds to beat the Knicks? If it's the Knicks, I'm not even sold it will be, but if it's the Knicks, how many games that series go? I say 5.
I still think it's the Knicks. Knicks are minus 450, by the way, on the series price to still win this against Detroit, which that's a little bit steep. And we do have a line, by the way, for game 6. Pistons are 2-point home favorites. Total is down at 213. I think you're right. 5 games is what comes to mind for me. I'd like to say the Knicks could take one at MSG, but based on what we've seen in this series, who knows? I mean, look, if you're doing this against Detroit, if you're struggling to get to 100 points night to night, that's not going to work against Boston. You know, we just saw Boston, you know, survive this complete dogfight, you know, in the mud type series against Orlando. They got, you know, they didn't hit a single 3 tonight. They still end up winning big. Boston is too deep for this version of the Knicks. I'm absolutely with you. Pistons plus 350. It's a long shot, but it's intriguing. More Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo and more Nick Whalen up next. Don't go anywhere. Cashing Out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you through the late hours of your Tuesday night, right on in to your Wednesday morning. Nick Whalen, the co-host of Prop Points on the network, as well as your senior editor and analyst over at RotoWire, with us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Nick, got a lot of NBA on Wednesday to get to here. 2 big Western Conference matchups, the Rockets and Lakers, 2 home teams that are going to be trying to save their season and stay alive. Going to get to some NFL draft props. We spend so much time talking football every Sunday night here on this show during the season. Now we get an excuse to talk a little more football. But before we get into the draft props, I got to ask you your thoughts on something that happened over the weekend. Your thoughts on that CBS interview with Bill Belichick and what that could potentially mean for a North Carolina team that I was quick to say over 6.5 wins when that hire was made, and now the number I believe is up to 7.5. And I'm looking at Bill, and I want to say blink twice if you need help, Bill. And I'm a little worried about the state of that team and if Bill is focused or not. Very concerning interview. Very strange interview. I think if somebody even 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, had told you like, hey, Bill Belichick is going to give this interview, here's what's going to happen in that interview, you would say that's like the last guy in the sports universe that I think would be embroiled in a situation like this, right? It's a total 180 from everything that we've come to know about Bill Belichick. And look, is it going to impact the product on the field? Not necessarily. If anything, it's just raising his notoriety, right? I mean, if I was like 17 years old, I'd probably think it was really cool that my coach was dating like a 25-year-old. So I don't think it necessarily impacts how I look at North Carolina, but it was bizarre in every way. I don't know how you could look at that and come away and think that's just a very normal situation, a super normal relationship, one that I would love to be involved in. Yeah, but if you were 17 years old, you might also think that the Paul brothers were cool. So obviously, the judgment of 17-year-olds isn't running the world here. I'm concerned, man. That win total, 7.5. And, like I said, it came out 6.5, and I was screaming over. And now I'm thinking under 7.5 at minus 110.
It might be the way I lean. I'm just really concerned seeing her on the practice field. Yeah. And, I know I ran up the Instagram poll that you partook in because there's a lot of questions as to how those two might have met. I don't want to speculate. All I'll say is that reaching for the same sweet treat at Trader Joe's was not the winner in that poll, surprisingly. I could have sworn they met reaching for some chocolate-covered almonds at Trader Joe's, but that was not the winner of the poll. People had some other thoughts regarding Belichick and how he met his 24-year. I mean, she's younger than me. That's crazy. Let's stay football. Let's stay with Travis Hunter here. Number 2 overall pick in this draft class. And what are your thoughts on some of these Travis Hunter props that have been released? You look at his receiving yards, 700 plus, 800 plus. Is he going to play enough on offense to accrue that many receiving yards?
Yeah, so we have receiving yards, we have receiving touchdowns, and we have interceptions props all up for Travis Hunter right now at DraftKings. And look, in general, and really this is the case with any season-long prop, especially when you're looking at it this time of year, injury tends to be the biggest concern. I mean, the books make a lot of money with people just taking overs on this because you look at a number for someone like Travis Hunter, everybody's excited about him. You're looking at Saquon's rushing yards number and you're like, oh, he's going to do it again. And you forget just how many games, the average NFL player tends to miss year over year. And, Travis Hunter is only 6 foot 185, right? So I think there is some real durability concern here. You compare that to someone like Brian Thomas with the Jags, who came in at 6'3", 210. And if he's pushing close to 100 snaps like the Jaguars claim he will, I really do think durability is something you have to factor in. He's had injuries at the college level, both at Colorado and Jackson State. Maybe this is just me, Joe, as a Jaguars fan, like preparing myself for what will likely be the worst case scenario with this franchise. In terms of the receiving yards, I don't know that I would go above 700. You can get that at minus 120 right now. Not quite enough value for me to go 800 plus at plus 125. Wouldn't really dabble with the 900 plus. You got to keep in mind, they still have a very clear number 1 receiver on this team in Brian Thomas Jr. They brought in De'Ami Brown. We'll see what kind of role Gabe Davis fills for this team, but 700 to me feels like a pretty safe floor. I do think if you read between the lines on James Gladstone, their GM's comments, they're going to play him on offense first. I think playing him at receiver is the goal. And then, the term that he's used is we'll have packages for him on defense. And look, if it goes well, maybe he plays more snaps defensively, but I think he will be more of a receiver first, at least to start the year. So that is one that I would look at. As far as the touchdowns go, I think I might actually like this one more than the yards, only because I think the Jags are going to make a point to feed him the ball in red zone situations, in scoring situations, right? You need to sell this pick. You need to sell it to ownership. You need to sell it to fans. You gave up a ton to move up and get Travis Hunter. And I think in order to sell this pick, touchdowns are going to accomplish that more than yards. So 5+ touchdowns at minus 155. I don't think that's a terrible price. Starts to get interesting at 7+ plus 225. Since 2015, only 3 Jaguars receivers, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Brian Thomas, have gotten to 7 touchdowns. Also did a little more digging on this. Since 2005, so we're talking 20 years, 39 rookie receivers have put up at least 7 touchdowns. So about 2 per year. Not all that crazy. Could certainly see Travis Hunter joining that group. But the interceptions prop to me is also very appealing.
Yeah, the interceptions prop is actually what I think is the best value surrounding anything Hunter related. Yeah. 2+ at plus money. I mean, look, I think this is a guy who's going to probably play 70% of his snaps on the defensive side of the ball. And to your point, and it was a great point, they're going to have to show their fan base that he was worth all that they gave up. And I think that he'll be used 3rd down, 4th down, and, goal to go situations. But I don't think he's going to be out there lining up 1st and 10, 2nd and 7 as a receiver all that often. I think he's going to be used in, you need a 1st down, you need a touchdown. But I think he's going to get way more snaps on defense. So I love that 2+ INTs.
I don't know. I think as of right now, again, I get the vibe that they want to play him more on offense. We'll see. A lot's going to change between now and week 1. But again, I'm gleaning that essentially from the intro press conference with Gladstone. But again, like you said, 2+ picks at plus 125 is pretty intriguing. I don't think I'd go above that. For one, interceptions in general, Joe, were just way down last season. There were 387 total interceptions last year. That was the fewest in any season since 1969. You go back a little over a decade and we're talking, 100+ fewer picks than we saw league wide in, say, 2013 when there were over 500 interceptions thrown. Obviously, we have an extra week's worth of games as well, which makes it even more extreme. So the league-wide interception rates have been on the decline for a while. You look at the numbers last year, 87 players had at least 2 interceptions. Not a single one of those players played for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They ended the season with an NFL low 9 takeaways, just 6 interceptions as a team. So I think it's going to be a point of emphasis turnovers tend to be fluky year over year, especially when you have a new defensive coordinator, you have an entirely new defensive staff. I think they'll be depending on Travis Hunter in a lot of ways to help generate those turnovers. That's kind of the player that he was at Colorado. So again, I'm not sure I'd go above the 2 interceptions. Keep in mind, Jalen Ramsey at his rookie year, he came in ready. He was amazing right away. He was runner-up for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He only had 2 interceptions as a rookie, and he was a full-time starting cornerback. He was playing over 60 snaps per game. So, as much potential as Travis Hunter has, I would be surprised if he's a Ramsey caliber quarterback or cornerback, I should say, right away.
Yeah, I wouldn't climb that ladder, but I do like 2+ at plus money. Hey, how about Wednesday NBA playoffs? Golden State, Houston, Minnesota, Lakers. What's your favorite bet among those 2 games?
Yeah, I'm looking at a few props for these games. In that Rockets Warriors game, Amen Thompson over 6.5 boards is one that I like. He's had some foul trouble throughout this series, and that's really what worries me. But if he's not in foul trouble, they absolutely need him out there defensively. He attacks the boards at a really high rate. So I like the over 6.5 there. Would look at Jimmy Butler over 5.5 assists. I lean Warriors to win this game. I know they are 4-point underdogs, but I've just lost so much faith in this Houston team offensively. They finally got the Fred VanVleet game that they needed. Alperen Şengün was really good the other night, and Jalen Green just completely no-showed for the 3rd time in this series. Maybe that comes back around at home, but Golden State, feels like they've gotten away with a couple of games that they should not have necessarily won, and that experience factor is really pulling through. As down as I am on this Lakers team right now, Joe, I do think they win and keep this series alive tomorrow night. They are 5.5-point favorites at home. We've seen LeBron in these situations so many times. Even Luka's played in a lot of these big games. I would look at LeBron's rebounding prop. Always tends to hit the glass in these do or die situations. He's had 3 straight double-digit rebounding games. You can get the over 9.5 right now at around -120. LeBron has a way when he needs to win to get to the line, much like he did in Game 4, to slow this game down. I think the Timberwolves probably come back around it in terms of shooting. I still think Minnesota wins this series. I still think Minnesota has a really good chance to beat the Warriors in round 2, but I think the Lakers do stay alive for at least one more game.
Crazy. We could get a 6 seed against the 7 seed in round 2, but that's how bunched up those Western Conference standings were. We have to keep reminding ourselves this may be a 3-6 Lakers-Wolves, but there was one game separating these 2 in the standings. Nick, as always, man, great stuff. Really appreciate the time. Really appreciate you hopping on. Thanks so much.
Hey, anytime, man. We'll talk soon.
Make sure you check out Prop Points with Nick, weekdays, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on VSiN, and of course his terrific work over at RotoWire as well. Folks, the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs are heating up. Baseball's in full swing, and the Kentucky Derby is just days away. So don't just watch, bet smarter with VSiN Pro. Right now, you get full VSiN Pro access through August 1st, just $59, everything we do, saving you well over a third of the monthly price. Sign up now, and that instant access includes a daily recap of best bets from all of our hosts and guests, exclusive betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 live video, and full show replays on the VSiN Watch app, plus our Kentucky Derby betting guide that drops in just a few hours. It'll have best bets on the Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. Every sport, every edge, one great price. VSiN.com/subscribe. More picks, more winners, more cashing out with Joe Ceraulo up next. What a no-show from the Clippers so far in this one. I mean, their defense has been incredible all season, non-existent. Denver's got 80. We're not even 4 minutes into the third quarter. 8:10 to go, 80-65, Nuggets. Now the Clippers look to be putting a little pressure on Jamal Murray as he pulls up, top of the key 3. No good. 3-on-1 for the board. Denver gets the offensive board and a foul. Wow. Aaron Gordon just willed a rebound, 1-on-3. Cashing out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, right here on VSiN, taking you through your Tuesday night. And the LA Clippers are about to find themselves down 3-2 if something doesn't change and change fast. Gordon at the line. Going to try to get in on a live number for you folks when we get the next stoppage. And I say the next stoppage, even though Gordon's at the line right now, because he may be on the line on my TV in real time. He may have already shot his second free throw. We could be off and running. So just keep in mind there's always that delay, that time gap. Could be my TV, could be your TV. So that's why we try it in sports like the NBA to wait for the next commercial break to get in on any live action. There's a foul right there. Is that going to be our opportunity? No, not yet. Clock is still off between DraftKings and the game. So we'll wait there, but my goodness, the Nuggets are just running away with this one. Not pretty if you're the LA Clippers. If you're the LA Kings, you're knotted up at 1 with Edmonton on home ice, where the Kings have thrived this season. Best home team in hockey, regular season. 5 minutes to go in the second period. 1-1 in LA. It's a pick'em on the money line practically. Edmonton is minus 10 cents. The Kings minus 20 cents over at DraftKings. If you want to lay a goal and a half with the Kings, you can get that at better than 3-1 plus 325. Vegas, by the way, at the second break, they're knotted up at 2-2, hosting Minnesota right here down the road. Luckily, that should. I don't want to compete with traffic on the way out. All right, second intermission, that should clear out. Last time they played game 2, traffic was a nightmare after that. But 2-1 Knights, that's a pick 'em on the puck line, shockingly. They're minus 1.5, minus 15 cents. Money line, you're laying $6. If you think the Wild have a little fight, you can get them on the money line right now at 4-1. I've noticed that these money lines tend to be really heavily juiced on favorites when they're up just 1 in these Stanley Cup playoff games. We saw it with the Kings Oilers earlier in the series. I think it was last game, actually, Sunday night, where the Kings were up 3-2 and they were like minus $4. And then Edmonton comes back. Ultimately, they came back from a 3-1 deficit. That $4 reference was when it was 3-2. And then Edmonton wins at 4-3 in OT. So the Knights, minus $6. Minnesota, 4-1 on the money line if you want to get involved on the Wild down the road at T-Mobile. Kawhi at the line for the Clippers. We've got an 82-67 game. And we've got Peyton Manning in attendance for it, for this Game 5 in Denver. The Nuggets, they've really made the most of this post-Malone era. Got rid of Michael Malone, 3 games to go in the regular season. If they win this one, they'll be 6-2 without him. And up 3-2 with a realistic chance to draw Oklahoma City in what I would say has to be the most intriguing second-round matchup, right? I mean, if you're looking at like Minnesota, Golden State, Denver, OKC, and then in the East, Boston, I think Boston, it should on paper be fun with my Knicks, but I think Boston's going to cakewalk the winner of Knicks Pistons. And then, Indiana might steal a couple games from Cleveland, but ultimately I think it's going to be Cleveland-Boston in the conference finals. Denver, Oklahoma City might be the most entertaining second-round matchup. And here I was saying that, now look, it's not over, right? Denver's not going on. But here I was saying the Clippers would pose the biggest threat to the Thunder. And they just can't get out of their own way in this one. It is a really disheartening performance from the Clippers defensively. 84 points in 2.5 quarters. That is so uncharacteristic of this Clippers defense, as they just get to 70 points, 84-70. Still waiting on a commercial break to update you with a live number. They've been playing through here in this one, even with all the fouls. I'm kind of shocked, actually. Playoff game. Figure they're dying to get some commercials running on your TV sets. So we got 2 hockey games, 1 at an intermission. Kings Oilers got a little havoc in front of the Kings net here. And I believe that puck got smothered by LA, so it'll be a face-off coming up there. That was close. Goaltender for the Kings ended up back in his own net. Nuggets have it, up 14 on the Clippers. How about the day on the diamond? Let's get to some live action on the diamond, shall we? Ended up with 2 bets on the Mariners today. We took them yesterday. No bat bottom 9, minus 120. Bryce Miller on the bump, opposite Kachanowicz and the Angels, right? And it's been a great day on the diamond. We did get a rain out on, it was Reds first 5. By the way, that was like the CLV Olympics winner right there. We had Reds first 5, minus 135. That was over at Boyd. We took that. And I checked this morning to see where it was. It was minus 165. 30 cents of movement on the first 5 with Singer opposite Michaelis. And the money line, full game, had actually come down, which is kind of why we played the first 5. It was all a handicap of the starting pitching. But the full game had gone in the opposite direction from the first 5. That got rained out, doubleheader tomorrow. We hit the first 5 under hardly. It was nothing after 3 in Pittsburgh between the Cubbies and the Pirates. Cubs have a 2-run homer in the 4th, 2-run homer in the 5th, make it 4-0. And then they load up the bases. Pittsburgh goes to the pen, pull Heaney. They get out of it. And then in the bottom of the 5th, the Pirates load up the bases. Imanaga gets out of it. So really worked our way out of some trouble there in the 5th inning as we hit the under 4.5 in the first 5. Cubbies win at 9-0. Imanaga's looked fantastic this season. We get Mackenzie Gore over 17.5 outs for the Nationals. He finishes with 18 outs, 6 innings of work. After a bumpy first inning that featured a 2-run blast by Kyle Schwarber, he settled in nicely in what was a crazy finish. He gets off the hook. Nationals take a 6-5 lead in the top of the 9th. Phillies come back, walk it off in the bottom of the 9th. By the way, Phillies might have won the game. Can't trust that bullpen. Orion Kerkering blows another one. And they got out of a bases-loaded no-out jam in the top of the 8th. 3 straight strikeouts by Alvarado, only to cough it up and allow 4 in the top of the 9th. They were at 5-2, allowed 4 in the top of the 9th, and then walk it off. So craziness at Citizens Bank, but we get our Mackenzie Gore prop. We hit Mets to not bat bottom of the 9th. That was even money. And David Peterson looked great over 5 innings. The Mets bats just picked up where they left off. Brandon Nimmo, who on Monday, 9 RBIs, ties Carlos Delgado's 17-year-old franchise record. Not in the lineup. He's got a stomach bug. But no Nimmo, no problem. Lindor, 2-run homer. Pete Alonso gets one. I mean, the team, everyone contributed to this. Some stellar defense. Lindor in the field. Tyrone Taylor, one of the sickest diving catches in the left center field gap you'll ever see. Mets win it 8-3 over Arizona. Picking up where they left off at home. Now 13-1 at Citi Field. Unbelievable. One of these road teams just going to start forfeiting. Not even bother showing up. 13 out of 14 wins at Citi. And now we've got the one play we gave out yesterday, and I added one revolving around this Mariners game. We gave out Mariners, no bat bottom 9, -120. Added a Brewers-Mariners moneyline parlay. Wanted to get in Freddie Peralta on the bump at the White Sox, but there was no great way to play Milwaukee, and I didn't want to lay juice with the run line. So ended up taking Brewers money line, which they were down early, and then the bats erupted a little later for Milwaukee. When did they finally get on the board there? They win it 7-2, but I want to say they didn't score until the 6th inning. It took them a while to get going. Yeah, they scored in the first. White Sox answered. It was 2-1. White Sox led after the first 5. So if you had Chicago first 5, that was probably a nice plus money price, especially with Peralta out there. But the Brewers had 4 in the 6th, 2 in the 8th. They win it 7-2. Paired them with the Mariners money line. They're currently up 5-3. Seattle's bullpen just let the Angels get one back. It's the bottom of the 8th. So if Seattle gets through the top of the 9th unscathed, we will hit 2 bets. Mariners no bat bottom 9 and Brewers Mariners +110 on that money line parlay. We'll get to the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Marlins games on the other side. But folks, the Kentucky Derby is just days away. Whether you're placing your first bet or you've been playing the ponies for years, VSiN's Kentucky Derby betting guide has everything you need to get ahead on Derby Day. You'll find a clear breakdown of how to bet on horse racing, which is great for beginners, detailed previews of both the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks, and best bets from our top racing experts to help serious bettors cash in. The guide drops in just a few hours, April 30th, and it's yours with a VSiN Pro subscription. Start today, just $9.99 your first month, and you'll get our Derby guide, daily best bets, and more by signing up at VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Another hour of Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo right up next.